much Caitlin drives ratings. We know how much Caitlin drives attention on the WNBA. And for her to come back and do it in that way was just ridiculous. I mean, I'm sitting there at the end of the first quarter when she had that 38-second stretch where she drained deep three after deep three after deep three. I was just sitting there thinking, I've been around this league since 1997. I have never seen that in a WNBA game.
See, but that's what we're saying. And everybody acts like we're glazing or y'all are hating.
National sports media spent Monday reacting to Caitlin Clark's return to the court over the weekend, with figures across ESPN and Fox Sports weighing in on what they described as a standout performance. Smith and Rebecca Lobo discussed it on First Take. Colin Cowherd offered his own take on his show, and LeBron James commented publicly that the CC effect is back. Asked what Clark's comeback means for the WNBA, Lobo pointed to the surge in attention that always follows her, noting Clark's well-documented ability to drive ratings and viewership. Lobo described a specific 38-second stretch at the end of the first quarter where Clark hit 3 consecutive deep three-pointers, saying that in all her years covering the league, dating back to 1997, she had never witnessed anything comparable in a WNBA game.
That's what we're saying. And everybody acts like we're glazing or y'all are hating. This lady just said she's been around this league since 1996. She has never seen this. She's never seen this. And this is all we've been telling you guys is what Caitlin Clark is. We have never seen anything like this. This is a magical moment in time. We'll probably never, it'll be another 30 years before we see something else like this. Like, let's just be serious here. Rebecca Lobo.
That kind of unprompted admission from someone with decades of history around the sport was treated as significant, given she had no real incentive to exaggerate. The performance was framed as a rare, once-in-a-generation moment, the sort of thing that might not be repeated for decades. While long-scoring runs from individual players aren't unheard of, this stretch stood out further because several of the three-pointers came from beyond 30 feet, all coming just after a 19-day absence due to injury. Combined with other standout passes and plays throughout the game, it left commentators repeatedly noting they'd simply never seen anything like it.
30 years before we see something else like this. Like, let's just be serious here. Rebecca Lobo don't have no reason to lie. She had no reason to lie. She's been around this league a long time and never saw anything as spectacular as Caitlin Clark, man.
Have we seen players go on runs? Of course we have, but not like that. Not where a couple of the three-pointers are from 30-plus feet. It was an exhibition by her. After being out for 19 days to recover from an injury, couple that with the other passes that she made and some of the other plays, it was just ridiculous. It's not often that you're watching the WNBA.
The conversation briefly touched on lighter banter about ticket access, with Smith joking about not being able to secure NBA tickets himself, humorously suggesting that Clark's games have become so in demand that even prominent media figures can't get seats. Turning back to the performance itself, Clark finished with 32 points on 55% shooting, including 7 of 14 from three-point range. Smith asked Lobo to assess where Clark ranks among the league's shooters, and, factoring in her playmaking, where she stands overall among WNBA players just a season and a half into her career.
That you're watching the WNBA, or that I'm watching it, and I'm like, wow, I've just never seen this before.
Facts.
Rebecca,
that's a fact.
First of all, it's wonderful to see you, and I got to tell you, I'll talk to you and complain about the WNBA not helping me out with tickets, okay, at a later date. I'll talk to you about that at a later date.
Whoa, WNBA, we can't get Stevie A hooked up? Caitlin Clark that hot of a commodity? Yo, Caitlin Clark so lit.
Lobo drew a comparison to an earlier segment where Smith had called Steph Curry the greatest shooter of all time, suggesting Clark looked similarly dominant on Saturday. She noted Clark finished 4th in MVP voting last season and currently sits as the second favorite for the award this year, trailing only Nafisa Collier. Lobo emphasized that Clark was, by her assessment, the best guard in the league last season, ahead of players like Sabrina Ionescu, Kelsey Plum, and others in that class, a point she felt gets overlooked historically.
Yo, Caitlin Clark so lit, they can't even help Stephen A out, y'all. Caitlin Clark so lit, they can't even help Stevie A get tickets, man. They can't help the biggest voice in sports media right now get tickets because Caitlin Clark got it too lit and too sold out. That's crazy.
Right now, let me focus on Caitlin because the girl comes back. She does a thing, 32 points, 55% shooting, 7 to 14 from three-point range. I want to know, in your estimation, where do you rank her as a...
The only players genuinely comparable to Clark in overall value, in her view, come from the front court. Nafisa Collier, Aja Wilson, and Brianna Stewart, though she stopped short of ranking Stewart above Clark. The broader assessment placed Clark firmly among the league's top 3 players overall, with acknowledgement that time will ultimately determine her full standing. Lobo...
No, in your estimation, where do you rank her as a shooter in the WNBA, and considering her assist, where do you rank her as a player in the WNBA in just her first 1.5 seasons in the league?
Steven, it's funny because I was listening to your last segment where you were talking about Steph Curry and you said he's the greatest shooter God ever created. On Saturday, Caitlin Clark certainly looked like that for the WNBA in terms of what she was able to do. As a player, you know, she finished last year fourth.
When asked how long it might take Clark to lead the Indiana Fever to a championship, the response suggested it wouldn't take long at all, with confidence that her competitiveness would eventually get the franchise there. The discussion then shifted to comments Colin Cowherd made the day before, following that Saturday performance. Cowherd framed his commentary around what he called a simmering cauldron, not referring to tension on the Fever roster, but to anxiety among NBA league executives.
What she was able to do. As a player, you know, she finished last year 4th in MVP voting. This is a player this year is second favorite right now in MVP, right behind Nafisa Collier. You know, last year she was the best guard in the league. So, you know, in terms of the context
That's
of
a
the
fact.
history of the
Nobody, like, people don't really talk about that. Caitlin Clark was the best guard in the entire league last year. The best guard. She was better than Sabrina. She was better than Kennedy, better than Jewel Lloyd, better than all of them. She is the best guard in the W, hands down.
He cited a reported 55% league-wide drop in ratings during Clark's injury absence, stressing this wasn't isolated to Fever broadcasts but reflected across the entire league. He argued that while league officials might find that number alarming, it wasn't surprising to those who understand the current sports media landscape, one built entirely around attention, where Clark functions as the dominant currency. He argued no American athlete, regardless of gender, generates the volume of clicks, views, and conversation that she does, framing her as a rising tide lifting the league's overall visibility and, by extension, everyone's earning potential.
All of them. She is the best guard in the W, hands down. The only people you really can even argue with, and like the players that you would make an argument to say they're better, Nafisa Collier, forward. Aja Wilson, forward/center. Brianna Stewart, forward. I don't think Brianna Stewart's better than Caitlin Clark, though. Caitlin Clark is top 3, bro. CC top 3. She's top 3. Like, the lowest she is 3, bro. Keep it a bean.
The league, time will tell, but in terms of the impact...
Cowherd emphasized that popularity doesn't follow a purely statistical logic. It's not simply about box scores or production, but perception and appeal. He acknowledged other standout performers, including Paige Buchers scoring 35 points recently, and called Aja Wilson the league's most statistically dominant player, though he personally argued Collier's current level of play surpasses Wilson's, anticipating pushback from Wilson's fanbase. He compared Clark's broader cultural pull to golfer John Daly, who didn't need to win majors to draw massive galleries simply because of his larger-than-life persona.
A lot of people, you know, in the media world want to know, is Caitlin Clark just a phenomenon, or is she the real deal Holyfield? Now, we know that we like to compare her to the likes of a Michael Jordan, a Tiger Woods, a Taylor Swift, you know, but at the end of the day, no one really knows how far Caitlin Clark can take the WNBA, and no one really knows, is she really the real deal? Now, I'm here to tell you, based off everything I have learned.
But he drew a contrast with Clark, noting she carries no gimmick or theatrical element. She's straightforward and businesslike. He likened her instead to content creator Mr. Beast, someone who doesn't rely on profanity, controversy, or political provocation to generate engagement, but simply performs at an exceptionally high level within a straightforward format. Clark's game, in Cowherd's framing, works the same way. Long-range shooting from 36 feet out, natural charisma, and genuine unpolished interviews that draw people in without any manufactured spectacle.
I have gauged since I've been covering Caitlin Clark. I've been saying she's the real deal, bro. Like, she's Michael Jordan, dog. Like, her rookie year alone should let you know she's not just a normal basketball player. The young lady came in breaking damn near every record the WNBA had for a rookie. If not, she did break every record the WNBA has had for a rookie. This young lady is by far.
He jokingly proposed the nickname Mrs. Beast as a result. He pointed to the ratings collapse during her absence as concrete evidence of her singular impact, noting it was striking that over half the league's audience disappeared simply because one player wasn't on the court.
This young lady is by far the hottest basketball player in the world, and I feel like she's definitely a generational talent. Now, Colin Cowherd was on a podcast, and he asked the same question as well. Do he feel as if Caitlin Clark is just a superstar, or do she have enough star power to actually help this league make some money? Because that's the biggest question. Is Caitlin Clark big enough to help the league make some?
Cowherd's closing message urged the league and its fans to take a step back and simply acknowledge Clark's impact, regardless of where individual viewers stand on the broader debate around her, whether feelings of jealousy, protectiveness, annoyance, or gratitude. His core point was that Clark hasn't just benefited from this moment in women's basketball, she's actively driving it, elevating the sport's visibility as a whole. Taken together, the commentary from Cowherd, Smith, and Lobo painted a picture of a rare, historic stretch for women's basketball, one shaped significantly by Clark's on-court performance and broader cultural influence.
That's the biggest question. Is Caitlin Clark big enough to help the league make some money? Finally, I believe she is. I definitely believe she is. But with all that being said, I'm done talking. Let's check out what Colin Cowherd had to say. Roll the footage, man.
I want to talk WNBA. I'm kind of fascinated by it because the WNBA did not make a lot of money. And I believe for its entire existence, the NBA has subsidized the WNBA. And you may argue.
The sentiment shared across the coverage was that this level of impact may not be seen again for a long time, and that it's worth appreciating while it's happening. New discussion has emerged around just how valuable Caitlin Clark truly is to the WNBA's long-term prospects. The central question circulating in media circles is whether her stardom will hold up over time, whether fans crossing over from college basketball will stick around, and whether the league can finally turn a profit for its NBA-affiliated ownership groups.
You may argue the moral, and there's a certain humanity to supporting women's sports. I completely understand that. And then Caitlin Clark arrived, and the team flies private, and the ratings are insane. Now, the league was growing, and I think the quality over the last 10 years has improved dramatically. But Caitlin Clark is, as I've said, Taylor Swift in tennis shoes. It is just a once-in-a-generation. It's Tiger Woods, the golf. It's Shohei Ohtani. It's like,
Comparisons to figures like Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, and Taylor Swift have become common, but there's still genuine uncertainty about how far her influence can carry the league, and whether the hype matches reality. Based on everything observed so far, the case for her being a legitimate generational talent is strong. Her rookie season alone shattered nearly every record the league had for first-year players.
It's Shohei Ohtani. It's like, it's an event. Every game's an event. Is the WNBA a viable TV product, or is it we have a once-in-a-generation talent? Obviously, the WNBA would not allow you to just buy a Caitlin Clark package, but is she powerful enough? Because she could have a 12 to 15-year run here, Michael. Is she powerful enough? A singular star with a little bit of a Magic Larry Bird quality because of Angel Reese.
She's widely regarded as the most talked-about figure in basketball right now, and that alone signals something far beyond typical rookie hype. Sports commentator Colin Cowherd tackled this exact topic on a recent podcast appearance, weighing in on whether Clark carries enough individual star power to meaningfully boost the league's finances. The belief here aligns with his, that she absolutely does.
Singular star with a little bit of a Magic Larry Bird quality because of Angel Reese. That absolutely helps. There was a story we could follow. Us Americans, we love our stories. We love the journey. Angel Reese is part of this. Is that over the next 15 years going to be a viable TV product, or do we just have a megastar and that's all it is?
So it's both those things. And I know it's always sort of a cop-out answer when you give somebody an either-or choice and they say it's both. But I do think in the WNBA, it's both something.
Cowherd explained that the WNBA historically operated at a financial loss, propped up for years by NBA ownership groups. He acknowledged the argument that supporting women's sports carries its own value regardless of profitability, but noted that once Clark entered the picture, everything changed almost overnight. Private travel for the team, skyrocketing ratings, and a level of buzz the league had never experienced. He credited the league's broader improvement over the past decade but described Clark's impact as something entirely separate, comparing it to the cultural weight of Tiger Woods in golf or Shohei Ohtani in baseball, where every appearance becomes its own event.
It's both something that was growing and viable and becoming more viable by the year. And then you injected into that a once in a lifetime talent in Caitlin Clark, who I think is very obviously the overwhelming number one factor in the growth of WNBA viewership last year. I think when we looked at Indiana Fever games versus all other WNBA games last year, the Caitlin Clark games were doing triple the viewer.
He raised the deeper question of whether the WNBA is a sustainable television product on its own merit, or whether it's simply riding the wave of one transcendent star. His answer landed on both being true simultaneously. The league was already on an upward trajectory before Clark arrived, but her presence dramatically accelerated that growth. He pointed to Angel Reese's rivalry storyline as another factor helping sustain interest, tapping into the kind of ongoing narrative that keeps audiences engaged.